It is 9 a.m. So we're going to hit go, guys. Thank you and welcome thank you for joining our State of the Industry, and welcome for all of those that are here week after week after week after week after week. We've been doing this since the beginning of March. And what we've promised is we're going to continue doing this for our brokerage network across the state of Oregon. During this interesting time, we've opened up this private Zoom to many guests, as many have asked if they could participate or at least just join. And that's been a real win for us. We're happy to have done that. We believe that as brokerages, regardless of company and regardless of brand, come together and work together, it'll make a better experience for all of our clients, right? All of our buyers and all of our sellers. And quite honestly, we need everybody throughout the state and throughout the industry to spend a little bit more time just really honoring each other as opposed to tearing each other down or competing with each other. So with that said, we're going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen as I do each week as we begin, because we're going to first start with really some conversations about where we are. I'm using some dual screens here, so I'm going to move some people around and then we'll jump in. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen. We're going to talk we're going to start rather by just sharing kind of where we are, right? We look every week and we take a look at some of our numbers from different MLSs, from different markets. And interestingly enough, our outlook, based on the fact that we cover Southern Oregon up to Eugene, Springfield, through Corvallis, right, and Albany, out to the coast, up to Salem, and up through Portland. Hey guys, it's me, Chris again. Just wanted to reshoot a quick video outlining some of the data from this past week around the brokerage network in the state of Oregon. As I jumped in and started started the industry today, my notes and the graph were not at all matching up, and I was trying to figure that out on the fly, and then I realized last minute that I have the wrong data. I had pulled up last week's graph, and the reason why I'm jumping on and re-recording is because there was some really important information I felt that I wanted to share. So let me screen share here real quick, and then we'll be able to go through just some of the points that I thought were important based on where we're at in our current marketplace. So here's what we know as we look at the graph in front of you, and obviously by now you have the data on this and the graph that you can look at as well. New listings, interestingly enough, were up in almost every single market except Marion and Polk County, right? So Salem was down almost 20% or just over 20% in new listings. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. You look at price changes, some seller motivation has changed. And I actually believe that is largely based on the new inventory that has shown up or come into the marketplace. So, right, new inventory shows up, it sets some direction around pricing, and sellers that are on the market that have not sold all of a sudden look and say, gosh, we may need to adjust our price based on that new inventory. So new inventory is healthy for our marketplaces no matter what. One, for our buyers, but also to give some data points for our current sellers. The only market that we didn't see that in, right, was Eugene. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Back on markets. Some increases in sale fails, right, in Eugene and Salem and Corvallis and Southern Oregon. And why? Largely, again, sale fails is all about motivation. Potentially, maybe they're in contract and something else came on the market. We haven't really seen that or experienced that in our market for some time, but that used to be a thing, right? When we had a lot of inventory, we had buyers that were constantly looking new, like what's coming on, while I'm in contract over here. So something to be mindful of as new inventory comes on the market. Pendings. Pendings are a leading indicator of our marketplace, right? And as you look at it, Portland, 726, right? Like straight consistent market there. Eugene up 21%, Corvallis up 32%, Southern Oregon up 25%, right? The only market that we saw a decrease in pendings was down 4% was Salem. But interestingly enough, that has nothing to do with buyer motivation or number of buyers in the marketplace. It has everything to do with inventory. Because look at Salem's inventory, drops 20%, pendings drop 4%. We control our pendings based on what we're listing as an inventory. In fact, right, look at that number that I shared incorrectly, but was sharing at the end of our data points during our live call. When you look at the Portland metro market, we listed 796 homes. We pended 726 of them. Look at Eugene, 168 new listings, 167 pended. We wiped it out, right? Look at Salem, 86 new listings, 183 pendings, right? Even not the perfect house is still selling. We need more inventory. You look at Corvallis, 79 listings, 110 pendings. Look at Southern Oregon, right? Dawn talked on the call today, 376 new listings, 437 new pendings. So what I want us to do is look at that, interestingly enough, and that tells an important story for our buyers, right? That think, I just might sit this one out, and our sellers that are waiting to put their home on the market. And then I wanted to point out solds, and this was the biggest difference between this week and last week. But you look at solds, and across the board, they're up in every single marketplace. Portland, Eugene, Salem, Southern Oregon, Corvallis was flat, but right, consistent market. When we go back to what this week, right, this past week showed, it was week 3 of shelter in place. The first 2 weeks, right, we're trying to figure out what to do. But interestingly enough, we should see consistent solds from this point forward, moving forward. The minute we as an industry figured out how to show homes and how to connect with people and move the ball forward with listing homes and buying homes and closing homes, we went back to normal. We went back to a normal market about, right, 2.5 weeks into shelter in place order, right? That was April 1st, April 7th activity that turned into solds last week. So just wanted to hop on, share that data. Hopefully this is helpful each and every week. We should pull these data points for maybe specific locations or specific neighborhoods as well. And just wanted to make sure the right data was talked about on this weekly email, since I had the wrong graph during the live event. Real quick, and make sure that I have my graphs that I wanted to have in front of me. Hold on one second. For some reason, my graphs did not show up. Hold on one second, guys. We're gonna have a lesson in economics. Okay. Here's what I'm going to talk about real quickly. I want to talk about just the state of the overall market, guys, because this will help us inform our clients exactly what's going on, or right now, I always say, right, data drives decisions. What you're looking at in front of your screen is some data around mortgage delinquencies. The nation's overall delinquency rate was 3.5% in January, right? As you're looking at that January number. In January 2020, 3.5% of all home mortgages were in some stage of delinquency. Now that is down from 4% a year earlier, and it's the lowest it's been in 21 years, according to CoreLogic, right? The lowest delinquency rate we have had heading into this year, into 2020, in more than 21 years. Now, this measure is also known as the overall delinquency rate, right? Includes homes that are 30 days or more past due, right? Including those in foreclosure. In fact, on your screen, if you look closely, you'll see, right, each segment of the market. The measure, also known as the overall delinquency rate, includes home loans that are pretty much 30 days past due, right? Including those in foreclosure. Now, we're going to be watching this as we expect that number to increase, right? Based on unemployment in our state and based on unemployment across the country. But the share of mortgages that were 30 to 59 days past due, considered early stage delinquency, was 1.7% in January 2020, down from 1.9% in January 2019. If you look at mortgage delinquencies from 60 to 89 days past due, it was 0.6% in January, down from 0.7% in January 2019. The serious delinquency rate, these are 90 days or more past due, right? Including loans in foreclosure, 1.2% in January, down from 1.4% of mortgages in January 2019. Right? The share of mortgages in stage of foreclosure, 0.4% in January 2020, 0.4% in 2019. It was unchanged from a year earlier, and it was the lowest rate for that month, for the month of January, in 21 years. So interestingly enough, right, those are January numbers. Those aren't today's numbers. CoreLogic is always a few months behind, but I share that because as our buyers or as our sellers, right? No, we don't have March data yet because CoreLogic is always a few months behind. But as our buyers and sellers are worried, but we're gonna hold your horses because we're gonna talk about data points that we can share that tell us what could or should or has happened over the course of a year after we see a change in economics. But coming into 2020, we had one of the most stable real estate markets. We had one of the most stable equity markets. We had one of the most stable mortgage delinquency markets that we've ever seen in over 2 decades, right? If you switch the slide, Leslie, what you'll see is the states with the highest and lowest shares of mortgage 30 days or more delinquent. And you'll find our state, right, at the bottom of the list, right? We're number 3 in the lowest delinquency rate in the country. Again, we're looking at a macro approach, but even as we get smaller and smaller into our micro market, Oregon had right, there was only 2 other states that were below us in percentage of mortgages in any type of delinquency, right? We're under 2%. Washington and Colorado under 2% as well. You can move the slide. Let's talk about home price appreciation, right? And this, right, as I look at this graph, I just say to myself, I hope my buyers are in contract. I hope we're all in contract, right? Because data drives decisions. And some of our buyers right now are saying, well, I'm going to wait this one out. I'm going to wait to see because I'm pretty sure prices are going to drop. So in front of you is the home price index, right? This will show that home prices increased about 4.1% year over year in February. These are national numbers, guys, right? We're looking at the macro approach. So February 2020 versus February 2019. And this graph or this line shows year over year, year over year, year over year, either price decline or price acceleration, right? From the peak way back, right? From the peak that we saw. Now, what you'll see is that HPI, that home price index, has increased on a year-over-year basis every month since February 2012, every month. Now, we saw some decreases in acceleration, sure, right? Because, and we're gonna look at a graph in just a minute, not yet, Leslie, but in just a minute, we'll see a graph that shows, right, what seems to be, oh gosh, we're going backwards, but that's only a deceleration of the increase in pricing, right? So month over month, instead of seeing a 5% increase, we saw a 4% increase. Instead of a 10% increase, we saw an 8% increase. But the fact is, since February 2012, we have seen year over year increases every single month. It has been a healthy market. As of February 2020, the overall home price index is now about 10% higher than it was pre-crisis peak in April 2006. So that was a start where we peaked. You'll notice that the beginning of the graph, that was April-ish of that peak. And then we saw that decline, and then we saw, right, it begin to go up year over year, year over year, year over year. You can switch graphs here for just a second. Leslie. Nope, yeah, sorry, perfect. Awesome. So this is we won't talk a whole lot about this, but I think because all of us are in different markets, all of us actually work different markets, it's important to see the differences, the price growth based on home pricing, right? Lower priced homes, mid-tier homes, right? Moderate priced homes, and then high priced homes. You'll see, right, 1 year ago, and then from the trough where we are today. So price growth year over year, from the trough today. And this reflects what we'd expect. But again, as we're talking to different sort of segments of our market, lower tiered pricing homes versus higher tiered pricing homes, this is a good conversation piece to show them what we saw year over year, and then what obviously we saw from trough to peak. Now, one more graph about pricing. This is that year-over-year change, guys. Remember, the zero line is if we saw a pullback or a drop in pricing, and remember that W, remember we saw that drop below 0%. So price increase, right? Going back to 2004, all of a sudden the price increases were slowing. We woke up one day and we're like, oh gosh, we're seeing declines in pricing. That's the fear right now in the market. Will we see that? And many of us lived through 2010 and 2011, right? That W, and then that ridiculous growth we also lived through in 2013 and 2014, and clearly that was unsustainable. But now you'll see, right, year-over-year price increases since we peaked, and then we saw some decline in year-over-year price increases. We've leveled off, but interestingly enough, since end of 2019, we've actually seen some increases in the year-over-year price increasing. So now let's talk about the effects of a recession. I found these graphs incredibly actually helpful to the conversation. There's widespread expectation, right, that the US as well as the whole world has entered or will enter into a recession amid the corona pandemic. And that's likely, right? Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan forecast that more than 20% of GDP contraction will happen in the next quarter. The International Monetary Fund declared a global recession, right? So what is the impact of the past 5 recessions on regional housing, right? And the regional housing market. So what you see in front of you, we can see that 2007 recession, the Great Recession, it was the only time we saw a nationwide housing market downturn, which didn't come as a surprise, right? Because the Great Recession was caused by the housing bubble burst, right? Like that Great Recession was a housing recession. It was caused and because of housing. Fair? But the 2001 recession that started from the dot-com bubble, right? That burst, that had very little impact on home prices across the country. There was less than 5% of markets that had more than 1% home price decline in the Pacific Northwest region, which is where the dot-com bubble burst, right? That means in the market that was affected the most, less than 5% of our metro areas saw more than a 1% decline in home pricing, right? Because this graph shows, hey, which markets saw a 1% decline in home values or greater during the recessions. And the fact is they were very, very localized in any recession in the past 5 other than 2007, right? The 2001 recession, we saw less than 5% of our metro areas in the state, right? Or the region rather, that caused that overall recession. For the 1990, 1981, 1980 recessions, some regions were affected more than others, but all of them were far from a national meltdown in home prices like we saw in 2007. You can continue, Leslie. Next slide. See, home price change 1 year into the recession for all census regions. Look at this, right? This is 1 year into a recession. What can you expect home prices to do regardless of the recession in the last 5? Well, guess what? 1 year into 2007, we saw some declines. But as people say, you know what, I'm going to sit back and see how the next 6 months plays out, I go back to some previous slides where I say, I hope you're in contract today, because unless you want to pay 3% or 4% more than you could today, tomorrow you're going to. These are really interesting graphs as we're able to share. Like we can't predict the future, but we can look at what's happened in the past, what's happened in history, and see the magnitude of recessions on home pricing. I think it's really interesting to look at this graph and say 1 year after the recession started, where was house prices, right? Or what market saw a 1% right, decline? Well, very few outside of 2007. Now, what we know, and this is what I'll share with you for as just a coaching tip, is the mind and our memory has incredible plasticity. And what that means is, right, well, we remember. And what we typically remember, right, our brains are formed to what we remember last. And some of us were not around during 2001. in this industry. Some of us were not around in 1990 in the industry. Some of us were not around in 1981 or 1980, or many of us may not have even been born in 1980. But the fact is we only remember what happened last, and we have to make sure we begin telling the story of the last 5 recessions, not the last recession. So I think these are some interesting data points as we look at our region and across the country, the national numbers. Now, is unemployment at all-time peaks? Absolutely. Absolutely. Does that immediately mean we're going to see a doubling of our delinquency rate? No, not necessarily, depending on which industries were hit in that unemployment. So again, we're going to continue to watch that. We're going to continue to share with you these numbers as we go week over week. But I think it's important for us to at least have that conversation, look at these graphs when we send them out or email them out later today, and make sure that we can have conversations around them. Cool? All right, let's move forward. Next week, Leslie. Awesome. Next week, we are going to change our schedule for the first time, and here's why. We have a shortened week, right, with the holiday. So we're going to move our Wednesday call to Thursday, and our Thursday call, we have actually a special guest coming. So you will get to be able to spend actually a couple hours with Dave Jenks, right? From 10:30 to 12:30, we have brought in a guest speaker. It's going to be live on Zoom, and he is going to deliver the session, Power Up, Pivot Smart, Survive to Thrive. Now, here's who Dave Jenks is. If you do not know, many of you have seen him speak. One of the greatest public speakers in the industry and outside of the industry. Actually was the co-author of the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And what he's going to talk about is really what do we do now? What are our 2 sources of power? He's going to go through, right, the 3 priorities that we need to have in chaos and crisis, the 4 steps to confidence and mastery. Guys, you won't want to miss this. You will be thanking me that I'm not leading the call, and thanking me that Dave Jenks is. I've got to spend quite a bit of time with Dave over the years, and thrilled that he has agreed to do this private session just for our brokerage network. So that will be on Thursday. We will send the link out to everybody that's on the call or who's been getting our emails. That'll be Thursday next week, and we'll begin that at 10:30 a.m. So change in time, change in date. Just wanted to make sure you have that. Cool. We'll send out a reminder email as well. All right. Every week, we get to spend some time with a few of our agents within the network. And I see the question, will there be 100 agent minimum? No, that will be set up as a webinar just like this. So we have that all set. We have that all lined up with Zoom, and short of Zoom having issues that day, we'll be just fine. But we will record it just in case, but all should be able to hop on and get into that room. All right. I'm gonna introduce to you a few of my favorite agents actually in our network. Dar and Darcy, are you on the call?
Getting there slowly.
There we go. There we go. And we get to see you. Brilliant. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thanks for spending some time with me. Appreciate not just what you do as human beings in your business, but appreciate your ever willingness to share. Many of you have had the pleasure of actually seeing Dar and Darcy teach. They've been some of our featured speakers in the network, speaking about customer service and really delivering at a high level for our clients and customers. But the reason why I wanted to talk to you is because if I didn't know any better and all I was doing was looking at numbers and success and results, I would think that nothing has happened this year. As I look at your numbers since March 15th, when everybody sort of looked around and said, what should we do? You've gone out, you've taken 15 listings, you've closed 17 houses, you've put 14 pending, which also means that the closings happened before the pandemic, right? But the pendings have matched your activity level pre-pandemic. So that tells me whatever you are doing has created a business that has been untouched. Now I get it. Like you're thinking, Chris, you're crazy. We've experienced the pandemic just like everybody else, but your business has not. And I wanted to talk and maybe dive deep into the reason that you believe that it has not on paper shown up that way for you. You're a database-driven business, and a lot of us are, but we don't see those results. Why do you think you've seen results that other people have not?
Darcy, do you want to start this?
Go ahead.
Okay, I think a lot of it is we're doing what we've always done, but yet we're doing it more, if that makes sense. Like our clients are used to us calling them. They're used to us being kind of in front of them at all times. When this hit, self-admittedly, I had a few days of, oh crap, what's going to happen? You know, that panic moment. And then Dara and I kind of chatted about like, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we let our client base and our database know that we're still here? And we started out with exactly what you guys had talked about in the beginning, is those care calls. Like, how are you? Not, can I buy or sell your house? Our whole messaging changed, but they were very used to hearing from us.
So let's actually get super tactical then, because you said we continue to do what we'd always done, but then we did more. Maybe share with us what we've always done mean.
We're very belly to belly with our clients. Part of our thing that we talk about when we first meet with them is like, you know what, you don't lose us after a transaction unless you want us to go away. Meaning that we're always there. Like we show up in their mailboxes every month. We have 6 events a year. We had just started like an intimate wine bar takeover. We do pot buys every month. They get a home anniversary gift on their doorstep every year. We take 36 touch and we've expanded it. I think we counted, Dar, what did we wind up with when we actually counted how many times they heard from us in a year? I mean, it was
over 55.
Yeah, it's just, we make sure that we're always in front of them and always coming from a sense of contribution. We never want to be the agent that says, look at me, I sell so many homes, I'm awesome. It's how can I help you on your journey?
So I think a lot of agents will say that and believe that they're doing that. A lot of agents may hear 55 touches and think that seems obsessive. How do you do that? And how do you, one, have you always done that? And if you haven't, when you started, what happened? And then 2, how do you make sure that it doesn't feel overwhelming, but actually does feel like you really care?
Do you want me to jump in, Darce?
Sure.
Have we always done that? I'll answer that question. We have always innately just been connectors. We've recently defined ourselves as that is our superpower. We're here to connect our communities, our friendships, any opportunity to do that. So have we always done that? No. We've been friends in our community. What changed, and I really believe it was right around when we came to Keller Williams. Darcy, you can jump in at any time, but we got purposeful about how we could connect with people. And we put in systems, like that every month we were doing pop buys, 10 to 15 people. Our direct mailings were consistently going out. We got strategic about our events. So again, we just put systems into place on how we say, find an excuse to reach out to our people so we didn't seem like stalkers.
Yeah, and I'll kind of just jump in on that. We started, Chris, very, very slow. It's not like we jumped in and said, okay, we're going to have a database. We're going to run 6 events. We're going to do this amazing client touch system. We started out with literally 7 years ago. We should probably write all of our names down. We should probably start touching. So 7 years ago, even though I've been in the business for 20, Dara, I think you've been like 16. Until 7 years ago, we had 0 systems. We had 0 database. And then we got really purposeful of writing down our database. And how we started that is, okay, if we were going to get married tomorrow, throw a huge party, whatever you're going to do that has a huge amount of people, who would you put down? And that was kind of the start. And we didn't start with 6 events a year. We started with 1, and it was small, and we just did the pie giveaway. And I think I've said like 12 people showed up, and we're like, crap, well, that's a bust. Last year, 283 showed up. It's just a matter of taking very small bite-sized steps and building on it.
I like that expression, like start with who you'd invite if you were getting married today, right? And then expand from there. Because if I track your business and look at the growth, interestingly enough, it didn't feel like it was a lot right at first, but even those small systems, actually, you actually saw exponential growth. In those first 2 years, I think your business, right, it started about 12 million a year, and right, you got to 24, you got to 36. So interestingly enough, it doubled and then doubled in about 2 years from just the systems. And then since 2014, it has consistently grown, like year after year after year, by just layering in one more thing and layering in one more thing and layering in one more thing. I think last year, right, you crossed over 50 million in production with a small group, right? You don't have this massive team, and it is largely because of that 50. Think about it. Every touch brought you 1 million in volume, almost, right? Like in your touch campaign.
When we say touch campaign, a lot of it is like when we have 6 events a year. They get, and this is what we're counting, they get a direct mail piece. When it gets closer, they get a constant contact email that says, "Can you make it?"
Okay.
They get a follow-up. If we haven't heard from them, "Can you make it? Can you not make it?" If they show up, that's a 4th touch. And after they come, we either send a thank you note that says, "Thanks so much, so great to see you." And if they didn't come, they get a note that says, "So sorry, we missed you this time, hoping to see you at our next event. Here's the date." So
Yeah.
that alone, that's 5 right there.
I think a lot of people think, gosh, all those touches, right? And that's what I wanted to hear from you, because you hear 54 and you think, how is that possible? But what Darcy just shared could be applied to any type of lead generation that we do. See, I look at it the same way, like an event, an open house. Like if you're inviting someone to an open house, if they see it digitally, visual people love that. If they hear your voice, right, auditory people love that. If they get the invite and you actually print to the database, then kinesthetic people love that. And it doesn't matter who you are, we all buy or connect either an auditory way, visual way, or kinesthetic way, right? We've talked, you actually and I have talked about that quite a bit. So what you've done is just said, listen, if I do 6 events and they're hearing from me, and then if they show up, my gosh, that's just concrete, right? But they're hearing from me 5 times, right? Each event, 6 events, gosh, that's 30 touches. Like you're done, like most people are done. So let me ask you this, 6 events, are they overwhelming to throw? Are they big? What are they, roughly?
You want to take the start, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So we do, some of them are I shouldn't say any of them are overwhelming. The ones that we do is we do an Easter egg hunt in our farm that we invite our sphere to. I'm gonna have to try to remember all these. We do a summer event. Last year it was like a picnic in the park with the carnival. We do a pumpkin patch event where we invite them to a pumpkin patch, pie giveaway, Santa, and all of those are pretty easy. I mean, they're not a huge amount of work ahead of time. And then we do our VIP event. Our VIP event is for only those clients who have either bought or sold in the last 12 months, or they've referred us in 12 months. And that's a campaign to basically, we've done it for 3 years in a row. We rent out Pumpkin Ridge, we do casino tables, we do, obviously catered beer and wine and prizes. And we try to make that event something that people don't want to miss once they've been there. So then we start the campaign 3 months beforehand. Hey, are you on this month's list or this year's list? Don't want to miss it. And that refers to our referral business before that event.
Got it.
So 5 are for everybody and 1 is exclusive.
And that exclusive, you had mentioned that there's a time frame, right? The previous 12 months.
Correct.
What happens to the people that were there the previous 12 months to that? Do they not get invited?
They don't get invited if they didn't refer us.
Okay. So it's really to reward people, and the message is, hey, thank you for supporting my business this year.
Correct. So the people who bought or sold last year, kind of the idea behind it was, welcome to the family, welcome to Dar and Darcy group events, you're new here. And then the other people these are the people who continue to support them. And it's a great dynamic to have people who are pretty new to us and people who are incredibly loyal to us together, trying to create, again, those raving fans. So it's awesome. Like, it's my favorite event of the year.
So now let me ask you this question. You are a database driven business. You're clearly 30 of your touches comes from invitations around events, and there have been no events the last 60 days, and there probably will be no events in the next 60 days, right? What are you doing now? Like, pandemic hits, what happens for you? Because the results haven't changed.
After the oh crap moment, right?
Right after.
Definitely having to pivot at this point, as everyone says, and get creative. We jumped in and increased our pot buys. So we initially started with coming up with practical ideas of what we could deliver to people that were safe and useful. So we quickly went from 10 pot buys that we would normally do in a month to 100. So we reached out to our people, purchased soaps from Bath & Body, and put a cute little tag on them, and everyone on the team went out and delivered 100 soaps. Safely. We had gloves on, mask, we were delivering very safe. And then we just changed, we used our system of following up touches with a text and a call, see if they got their little surprise, another reason to check in or excuse to touch them.
Awesome. So let me just stop there. Like, first one, right? Commitment was, I'm going to deliver 100 of these. For some, that seems overwhelming, right? And as I look at, this is your strategy, this is how you've chosen to build your business. How long, right? How many days were you delivering 100 each person? Like, you guys did it. So did it take you 3 days, 4 days? What did it actually look like? Because I hear that and I think, oh my gosh, like, I have 100 bars of soap in my back seat and I'm driving around. Like, how did you execute that?
Well, I'm going to admit it was a tiny bit crazy. We failed forward. It took us about 4 days. We initially hit the ground running, and then we had a hard time getting soaps from Bath & Body because we had to order them at a smaller quantity and under each of our names. So we had to work the system and get creative. So it took us, would you say, Darcy, about 5 actual days to get everything.
Days. And it was a team effort. It wasn't one person who just loaded them in the back and said, let's go. It was definitely a team effort. Everybody was going.
So here's what I love, though. Guys, everything you hear is transferable to a single agent's business as well, right?
Correct.
So if I hear 100 and I think, well, gosh, like, there's no way, then we will have commensurate results based on the percentage that we do. So if we do 25, well, great. Then we can expect 25% of the results that you would get at 100. If I do 30, 30%, 50, 50%. Like, I think what happens is we hear a big number and we tap out. We're like, no, if I'm not going to do 100, I'm not going to do anything. And what I want people to hear about your systemic growth is that you've ramped up over time. It didn't happen, right, overnight. Okay, so you've done that. What else have you done?
Darcy, we're continuing. We've dropped off chalk. Do you want to talk a little bit about the fun chalk program?
Yeah, we switched it to, that works so well because just looking at immediate success, like we're on our second round. We did sidewalk chalk, but then we're on our second round of soaps to people we didn't do because we had such success with it. Here's a great example. One was dropped off yesterday. I followed up and said, hey, surprise on your front step. And sometimes it's the little things that are the big things is kind of the message.
Love that.
And he replied back, hey, you know what? I was just going to call you. Can you do a CMA on my house? It's just, they're thinking of you. So we switched to the sidewalk chalk. And what we did was we had a little tag, they're always like a fun little pun on the tag, and then put on a link to a YouTube video that had a chalk obstacle course. Here's something to do today. And then ask them to tag us on our Facebook and our Instagram with what they've created. So we also created them kind of posting on our page as well. And something to think about too is these aren't expensive items. Sidewalk chalk is $1 at the dollar store, but it has such an impact when we can't do anything else. So we've done that. And then what we're hoping to do, we're having some HOA last minute things, is we have rented a shaved ice truck for our farm to show up in the park on Saturday. They're all they're doing CDC practices. It's free shaved ice for 2 hours. We rented, Dar and I will be, and our team will be around, but very far apart. So it's an event, but it's not an event. So like, how do we do this safely?
Yeah, love it. Let me ask you a couple more questions, guys. And there are a lot of questions actually on the chat. Don't like, we'll actually pull the questions and maybe get some answers from you later. One question I do have that I wanted to bring up. So how are you tracking your referrals? Your referral-based business, you have a big event based on those referrals. How are you tracking who sends you referrals? Is it in your CRM? What does that look like?
Darcy, we're really, really old school. We sign in, sign out, and we keep an Excel spreadsheet that tracks everything for the year. And then we evaluate, our top sources and where we could elevate and do things a little bit better. It's, the data gives us the information of where we can make some adjustments.
Okay.
That said, when we get a referral, the system is it comes in, we email one of our admin who's in charge of keeping the referral base. This is the name of the person who sent us the referral. This is the referral she sent us to see if that referral truly turns into a client. And then that referral source immediately gets a $25 Starbucks card in the mail with a thank you so much for trusting you with your friend, family, whatever it is. We appreciate you. And that goes out the same day we get the referral.
Yep. So you reward the activity, not the result. And then that allows you to put that person's name right into one Excel spreadsheet that is labeled, right? End of year event spreadsheet. I mean, that may not be the label, but ultimately that's as systemized as it was. Now, your database though is in a CRM that automates, right? Touches.
Oh, you're so funny, Chris. Our database is in an Excel spreadsheet. We have tried several CRMs. We have not found success yet. We hear commands coming is going to be fabulous. It's not quite there for Teams yet. We've tried several. We keep on coming back to the spreadsheet. It's archaic. It is not the most efficient. We're old, so it works for us. It's what we know.
Well, we better also give Jeremiah some credit on our team, our success team. They have diligently, through all of this, been entering our database into Command.
Yeah.
So it's been a great opportunity for us to do things like that.
Here's what we know, guys, and you and I have talked about that, so I knew kind of where the answer was going. But I think everybody believes that in order to do what you do, you must have some really fancy, expensive, right, beautiful piece of software. Now, I will tell you, get ready for more business, because the software that you are preparing to enter will do amazing things for you and for your people, right? For your clients, which is what you're all about. So even if you don't do that, even if you're not that person, even if you, right, are still using Excel, like, Karna posted and said, hey, thank God you love Excel as well. Like, there's another person that runs a beautiful business on database and has done it, I don't want to say 30 years, but for a lot of years on Excel. So I love that. Now let me just get maybe one more question. As you look at, you've talked about your business in terms of phases now, as you re-enter, right, the engagement with the database and are figuring out, well, that event might not work. What does that look like? How do you think about that, guys? Like, what are you doing in the next 30, 60, 90 days?
Sorry, go ahead.
I explained to Chris that we have been doing things in phases, and I just kind of used that word because it's being used right now, so it's very relatable. I believe that the phase that we're in it's phase 4, and it's our thrival mode. We're setting up systems of how do we get even more purposeful and data driven and be the educator in our industry to share with our clients. So what that looks like is equity calls right now, and focusing on what events we can do safely, allowing us to bring our communities together, because we really miss that. And I think that most people right now are missing just some sort of connection. Darcy, do you want to tag on to that?
And that's exactly right. And kind of what we look like at the end of every year, so probably around October of every year, Dar and I sit down individually before we have our business planning. What's next year going to look like? What are we adding? So every year is like, so this year we just added a quarterly wine bar takeover that we had one before this shut us down. But it was, what are we adding next year that's going to bring more value? Looking at ROI on where we're changing. We had planned to change up some of our events this year because found some were bringing in more business than others. So what do we do to tweak it? And then every year we add a little bit to our farm. We either add an event, we add some kind of marketing, but we've just added a little piece every year as we've grown. And we decide in October what that's going to be the next year.
Yeah. what I love about you guys is you are implementers and you are incredibly coachable as well, right? Like, you know, I know Craig Rieger has been an incredible coach through your growth. A couple, let's go back 60 days ago, that advice you said that he gave you about pulling those weekly numbers that we do here as well every single week, and making sure, hey, we're going to send out a message about numbers. And then right on one of our calls here, we talk about making equity calls. Well, you guys said, well, great, if that's a suggestion, let's do it. And you've seen results from both the posting of the numbers and sharing the data and the equity calls, the care, like you hear it and you implement. And that's not always the case.
We always say that our whole business is, what do they say, R&D, ripped off and duplicated from about 1,000 other people. We see something that somebody else is doing well and it works for us and we implement it. And that's not to say that we haven't tried things that we have not fallen on our faces and like, wow, that didn't work. But you get back up, you try something different.
Yeah. One of the things I want to wrap up on is that as you listen to two women that have built an incredible business, it isn't by chance, right? And it isn't that you just guys are just incredibly engaging human beings within the community and everybody loves you. Like all that may be true or not true, but all that may be true, but you're incredibly strategic. And that's what building a business is about, right? It isn't just, let me drop off some soap. It isn't just, here's some chalk. Like it follows a plan. There are connects and reaches out. Yeah, that sounds right. You're reaching out. And then there's asks too. There's asks, hey, I dropped off the chalk, draw something, right? Have your kids play with it and then send us and upload a picture. And it gets that community engagement, which is sort of the mission and where your whole purpose in business is all about, right? When you say, hey, our superpower is connecting and advocating, well, then you're looking at your event or your drop-offs or your connections to connect and advocate. And I love that you guys are as strategic as you are.
Chris, what I'd like to add to that is what we've learned since we've come to KW is to know our numbers and to be a little more data driven, which honestly is more Darcy's wheelhouse than mine. But we do all these events to connect people, and then we sneak in the business piece of it, the data, and people want to know. And at first, 7 years ago, before KW years, we were secret agents. I mean, we were not sharing that information. So that was life-changing for us. I also want to add that it may sound like we've got our stuff together through all of these phases, but I will tell you, it's been messy. And luckily, we have a great culture in our team with a ton of resilience. I mean, we've been practicing resilience daily to get us to this point as agents in an ever-changing industry anyways. So it has been messy. I don't want you guys to sit here and think, oh my gosh, they've got it together. It's a constant being open-minded and willing to fail every day. Every day we fail.
Yeah, one thing I'll share, and then I'll let you guys go. I appreciate your extra time for sure. Is I thought your models of phases was really good. In fact, I took some notes and sent it out to my team. But your phase one was survival, right? And that is that was really like, hey, let's connect with our team, let's connect with our people, let's understand what's going on, right? Connect, advocate, and make sure that we have the resources we need. Your phase two was, it's Sphere and database time, right? These are care calls into the Sphere and to the database. Phase three was, well, we're about community. So now you begin engaging community within your Sphere and database, and we hear that through the events or the drop-offs that you did, which now is tying Sphere and database within the neighborhood and the community. And phase four, right, is to connect, and that what you said was, okay, now we're going to use that ripple effect, right? Elevating that level of care, right? It is clearly driving more messaging around real estate as well, because phase four is like, we're not going to get stuck in survival. We're going to focus on thriving, which actually so much of next week's entire call with Dave Jenks is going to be about. So you guys are going to love it. But I love your phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four. And you guys just say like, hey, we're in phase four. So like, we're not going to go back to phase one because we are now phase four. Let's continue to move towards connection and thriving. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. What I'm going to ask you to
Chris.
do is maybe leave your contact information in the chat box as you hop off. Just if people want to reach out to you, or they have buyers and sellers in the Portland metro area, if you want to put that contact information in, that'd be great.
Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Awesome. We're going to switch gears, guys, and we're going to introduce you now to one of our agents in our network down in Southern Oregon. And actually one of our top single solo agents in the network. In fact, across the region, he ranked as number 8 of all KW agents that doesn't have a team, runs his business methodically and consistently. Don, are you on the call with us? If you can unmute and turn on your camera, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm here, Chris. How you doing?
I am doing awesome, Don. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Maybe just tell people a little bit about where you are, right? Where your business is based and maybe how long you've been in the industry. Oh, you just, I just lost your sound. That's odd. Is it just me or? You can hear me, I can't hear you. No. But I did hear I heard a fuzziness just as you started, as in like something broke. If you take off your headset, you may need to do that because it may be trying to pick up there. No?
Is that good?
Perfect. Good.
Oh, I didn't think the Bluetooth would make a difference.
No worries, no worries. Okay, you can walk back to where you're at.
All right.
So maybe just start. Appreciate you being on the call. Tell everyone kind of where you're at, location-wise, and how long you've been in the business. And then I'm gonna have a really specific question for you, something might take away from my conversation with you over the last week or so.
Okay. So I'm based out of Klamath Falls, Oregon. Been in the business since 2006, right when the market was screaming pretty good, got in it and then went through the crash and still survived through that and just kept working at it. Started with John L. Scott, then went to Caldwell Banker, was there for 10 years, then found out the Keller Williams program and just really fell in love with it. And so I just started researching how I can get Keller Williams to Klamath Falls, and we were successful in doing that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as I look at over the course of the last couple months, your business has stayed incredibly consistent. And even when we look at some numbers, and I'll send out the right numbers because I was showing last week's numbers earlier today, so I apologize. But as we look at the numbers week over week, the reality is inventory is ridiculously tight in Klamath, right? In your market, one of the tightest inventories of any market that we're in. And yet, right, you've recently pended 6 homes, you've taken 10 listings. And what you said to me was, you know, my perspective is it's business as usual. How do you keep that perspective? And maybe what do you look at? Like, how does data help you gain that perspective?
Well, I just I watch the MLS daily, and that kind of tells me where the market's at. When I see listings coming up short, that tells me that people are afraid to list in the pandemic, because this time of year we usually see a lot of listings come out. We're seeing go pending right away, so we just need to get out the message that there's a lot of buyers out there still wanting to shop, that there's not a problem with the market. We just need to get you guys out there.
One of the things that you shared with me is you also you also gauge your personal performance based on that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think of how to answer that one, Chris.
One of the things that you shared was, if I see listings down and my listings are down, I understand what's going on. But as you begin to see listings show up, and actually let me share something on the screen now that I have the accurate data. as you see your listing market go up, interestingly enough, week over week, Southern Oregon saw a 17% increase in listings last week. So you look at that and then you reflect on where your business is, and ultimately are able to look and say, hey, am I getting my unfair share of that market? Am I behind the market? Am I ahead of the market? Or am I just average? Right?
Right.
If my listings are up by 17%, well, then I'm just staying average. If my listings are down while the market's down, well, I might just be staying average. But I loved your perspective of every single day looking what's going on and then reflecting not just how do I use this in my market, but how do I use this as a reflection of my business?
Yeah, Chris, it's just just common getting out and visiting with people. And if you have nothing going on, just go out into the public and visit with them. The interesting thing about real estate market is it's always a conversation that everybody wants to have. You don't have to try to sell yourself. You just have to get out there and be knowledgeable in your business, and just let them know. Let them ask the questions. You answer them responsibly, and just let them know how you feel about the current market. And once they quit asking the questions, just walk away from them and say thank you and have a great day, and always make them feel like they ran the conversation, but you were really running the conversation.
Yeah. One of the things I think is a notable for us to be able to learn, and I like your perspective, is 90% of your business typically is referral based, right? And yeah, you got into the business at an interesting time, right? Like you hit the ground and you were running, but immediately, right, the market crashed in front of you 2 years into the business, which is typically right when people are getting going. You have maintained about 80 to 90% of your business always being referral based. And yet when we were talking, you're about to launch into some radio market, right? That's marketing based, some radio in your marketplace. You've done it before, and where most people are pulling back, you're about to move forward. Why are you doing that? Maybe I'll start there.
Well, I think, Chris, there's a way of getting the message out there. I can't go out and visit everybody, and I need to get the message out there on new things that are coming up in the market. One thing that was introduced to us as Keller Williams agents here in Klamath Falls is the Keller Mortgage program, and that's a killer program to try to take advantage of. And our market is one that can really gain with that, because of the lack of a lot of our buyers are needing the closing costs and that, and they're getting beat out on transactions because they need it. And if we can offer that to them, that can be a huge advantage. So that's one reason why I'm wanting to do this advertisement, is trying to say, hey, there's a new guy in town or new company in town that can actually help a lot of you people out that you didn't know about.
One of the things that I think is interesting, and what can we pull out? What can we learn from that, right? Because does that mean everyone's going to go out and do that form of marketing or advertising? Absolutely not, right? In some markets it doesn't work. In some markets it's too expensive. In some markets, right? But you look at new listings at 376 last week in your marketplace, and new pendings at 437 last week in your marketplace. And what that tells me is it is a highly competitive market for buyers. So what you've done is said, okay, well, what tool chest do I have? And what tool can I use to connect buyers or give buyers a competitive advantage? Awesome. If it's a free mortgage such that they don't have to ask for closing costs, or if it's a free mortgage such that they can use the closing costs that they had saved, have that company pay for that, and then increase their offer, that is their competitive advantage. And then for us, the job is, well, how do I get that message out? It could be calls into a database. It could be mail. It could be email, right? It could be radio. Whatever the source is or the strategy is, the important thing, and that's straight out of the book Shift, is connect with the message of the market. Who's your future customer right now? What do they need? And how do you provide that? And fortunately, you say, well, gosh, my company provides that. I just need to do a better job of getting that out there to the public. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, correct. I've always been one that said, I've always had the question asked, how much does that cost you for that advertisement? And I've always had the attitude of, I don't know. I just need to know how much it's going to make me. And, you know, if it's not making any money, you need to try a different direction and see if that can work. But there's no reason not trying something new to see if it can work, because it could be the ultimate ticket that can get you more business.
Yeah, guys, the takeaway there is this: you won't be able to answer that question. See, Don, you have built your business on relationships, but you're a very bright business person, right? People need to understand that, right? You invest in real estate. In fact, you just bought a commercial space that you're launching a mega agent office in Klamath, which is beautiful, by the way. Right? You're a bright business person. The only way we're bright business people is if we're going to spend money on our business, we have to say, oh, I'm not spending it, I'm investing it. If I'm investing it, I expect a return. And if I expect a return, I have some expectations of when that return shows up, such that I could gauge the success, or ROI, right? Like we could just say return, the return on that investment in the business, which is how you've built for the last, gosh, right, since 2006 when you entered the business, strategically. Last thing before we go, right, you also have run a dinner, right, once a year. Same actual strategy as Darcy. And if you referred me this year, right, you're invited to a dinner. You started that in 06 and 08, right? You did that,
Right.
and you stopped, which everything stopped in 9 and 10. And then you've been doing that for 8 to 9 years. What is the investment? What does that look like? And how does that run for you?
Well, you know, this dinner is kind of an interesting thing that I do every year. It's everybody that's done business with me that past year gets an invite to a dinner. I serve them dinner. I buy a bunch of raffle prizes. Everybody gets a ticket, and they get a chance at some kind of prize. Everybody walks away with something. And I invite, if they have kids, they can bring their kids, because I sell to families. I don't sell just to mom and dads or single people. I sell to families. So if they want to bring their kids, it's more than welcome. And it's kind of funny because I don't do a real big speech. All I say is, hey, thanks again. You guys have, this is why I stay busy. This is what keeps me going. Is this what's in this room tonight? Either you bought, you sold, or if you referred somebody to me, you get an invite again. And, you know, I always share there's about half a dozen of you tonight that were referred clients, and you got to come back to the dinner again. And it's amazing how many people run up to me and say, hey, did Jeff give you a call? No, I haven't heard from you yet. It says, well, I know, because I want to come back to the dinner next year. So it's kind of funny how that all works, because my cost on those people to come to this dinner probably average out about $60 per couple. Who wouldn't pay that for a referral? Well,
the problem is, here's my takeaway. When you look at $50 to $60 per person or per couple, most of us spend more than that on a Facebook ad. Most of us spend well more than that on some zip codes. Most of us will definitely spend more than that on even agent to agent referrals, which are a beautiful thing, right? The cost of sale, right? For you look at the return on investment, and you've gotten 80 to 90 people there, $50, between $3,500 to $3,800, and that's unsponsored, right? That's no financial help from sponsors. The fact is that return is incredible.
And it's a personal connection. It's not just an email or something in the mail or a Facebook thing. You're actually meeting these people that night and shaking their hands and saying thank you for coming, and thanks for your business.
Yeah, I love it. And just one question from the group. The people that get invited, those are if they just refer someone, right? It doesn't mean that they had to transact, but they sent you a referral. Is that right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, rewarding the activity. Remember, reward the activity with your sphere. One of the things that you do so well, Don, is socially connect with your people too, and stay involved in their life socially on social media, and making sure that you're present for them, so that when they need you, you can be right. They're present for you as well.
Correct. You know, I always let my clients know that they can always call me on the phone for any issues that they have after we close the deal. That's been a huge benefit to me as well. I get calls 6 months later asking about something about their house, and I try to answer them, or I try to direct them to the right contractors that can help them out. because it's so hard to get hold of contractors in today's world. So I just tell them, hey, send him a text and tell him I told him to give you a call, and they usually line it up. So, I mean, that's how I help my clients after the fact, just those simple calls, and they just really appreciate that.
Yeah. Guys, what I want you to hear is things don't have to be so fancy, right? Things do not have to be complicated. Things do not, you don't need a lot of people to run an incredibly successful business, right? Here's the deal. You're number 8 individual agent in KW in our region, right? Our region includes Seattle and Portland and Boise and markets which have a much higher sales price than Klamath Falls. And it's your consistency and just connecting with people locally, right? Using technology, right? Using social, using print, using events, but ultimately making sure that you're staying top of mind with them as well strategically. It's a huge win and a great takeaway for all of us that say, well, gosh, do I need an admin, and do we need a buyer's agent? Do I need no, and no, you don't. And Don's a great example. Guys, if you have referrals to the area, he's the guy that you want to send them to, because your clients are going to get taken care of. As when I first sat down with you and met you, and when I was down there, what I knew day one is what you see is what you get with you, right? You're just,
yeah.
You're a normal guy having normal conversations, helping normal people through their real estate transactions. And that's who we all need to be. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Chris.
Your contact information in the chat box for you while we were chatting as well. So I appreciate everyone going a little bit long today. Don, thanks for jumping on. Guys, next week, remember, Thursday, you will not want to miss that. We're pulling some strings to bring in Dave Jenks for our network and our organization, one of the greatest real estate speakers, great author, and honestly, perfect timing for us to really, instead of a state of the industry next week, we're going to do the state of our mind next week. So I'll be on there with you on Thursday, 10:30 to noon 30 Pacific time. Look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks for being on the call today. Thanks, guys.